Hey, welcome back to The Question, June 2nd edition. If you're watching on YouTube, this is video part 3. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, hope that the stream is working for you. You can just keep listening for the whole 2.5 hours, where we will be joined in the next 10 minutes by natural health coach Shelly Pagitt. We'll also be joined at the 10:30 hour by parenting advocate Carla Barnhill, and at 11 by home remodeler and repairer and front stair thinker Steve Sherber, and at 11:30 religion commentator Tony Jones. Hey, glad to have you all aboard. We are looking at the news through the lens of things that just shouldn't be. Now, a couple of things that should be, so we know that the world is still right. Sad news, very sad news out of France, out of plane crash, but at least we're still reminded planes do crash. And I'm sure somewhere there's a bank robbery going on. But we do know that there are some things that come in the news that just make you say, you got to be kidding. Dick Cheney, all supportive of gay marriage. My wife wanting to buy a large flat screen television set. Television apparently being bad for children, and people in the United States wanting to close Guantanamo Bay. These are just news stories of this weekend. It's enough to make a fella say, I don't know what's going on anymore. All right. Hey, here's another story. Now, this is one that I'm not all that shocked by, because I think this has been true all along. Because I got a little fear. Okay, I get along fine. I travel a lot. But every time I'm in an airplane, I think this sucker is, how do they fly? Honest to Pete. It's magic. It's magic. It freaks me out every time that it happens. But small towns scare the bejeebas out of me. Gotta tell you, not a fan of the small town. I don't know why I pull into it. Maybe it's I've seen all these movies as a kid, Children of the Corn and Psycho, and all these movies always happen in these small little towns, these little rural places, and I always, sing those songs about the sheriff being in on the deal. And anyway, they creep me out. Everybody seems to know everybody. They're always a little funny feeling. I know some people are like, oh, I just love a small, John Mellencamp. They love that small town business. I get into small towns and they just freak me out. So I'm not a big fan. So when I saw this headline, it didn't strike me as odd as it probably would the public. From the FBI, U.S. crime falls, but small town violence is up. Telling you, that's just the ones they're finding out about. They're grabbing people in those cornfields and putting them into those crazy little cults. Well, cities in the United States got safer in 2008, the article says, while small towns grew more dangerous, according to FBI data released on Monday. The FBI says that violent crime nationwide dropped by 2.5% last year. And cities with more than 1 million people saw murders fall by 4.3%. And cities with 500,000 people to 1 million saw murders fall by nearly 8%. Yet towns with fewer than 10,000 residents, those little, small, creepy towns, saw murders rise by 5.5%, rapes increased by 1.4%, and robbery by 3.9%. It's a crazy world we live in. Small towns, a little small town beat isn't so safe. News that just says, that makes you say to yourself, you gotta be kidding me. How can this be true? How about this one? This is one that's sort of we've gotten used to this. Maybe it doesn't strike us anymore. General Motors, the largest car manufacturer in the United States, bankrupt. Stock worth less than $1, and they're under Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Little commentary. Every day we try to have a little fun, and I try to give you a little substantive commentary as well. This is a big deal. This is a big deal, not just because of the financial implications on the United States. Not just a big deal because the Bush administration and the Obama administration completely misgauged what their response ought to be, in my opinion. Look, 60,000 jobs could be lost, yada, yada, yada. Move it along. You know how many jobs are going to lose? Half that many jobs by the restructuring. This is ridiculous. They never should have bailed these people out. It is a failed project, these car companies. And I feel badly for people who work in the car industry, but what are we going to do? Run around for everybody who works in a failed industry and say we're going to bail you out? Shouldn't have bailed anybody out on this one. This one's just downright ridiculous. But here's the bigger social implication. It comes in that little phrase, too big to fail. Okay, first of all, apparently they're not too big to fail. They did fail. They did fail. It doesn't work. They lose $177,000 a minute or something crazy. How much greater of a failure can there be in a car company that wants to stay in business and make money for its shareholders if it doesn't make any money? This notion that things somehow are too big to fail is nonsense. The thing that I think is important about this is it really takes a swack at some of the understanding of institutions in the last 100 years in the United States. That is the idea that a larger institution is somehow more stable. Not true. Somehow more effective. Not true. Somehow must have gotten large because they're good at it. Not true. Now, I happen to work in the religious industry, one of my occupations, and this is common conversation in the religious industry talking about church organizations and denominations, that somehow if they're bigger, then they're going to be more stable. They're always going to be around. They're going to be more efficient. They're going to do it better. And they must have been good because they're big. It's not true. We're in a period of time in which the kind of institutions and organizations that are so large that there's this fictitious notion that it can't fail. Now, look, there are politicians, of whom I'm seeking to become one, who will say, not on my watch. I'm not going to let this happen on my watch. I'm not going to let the defining happening of my final months in office or my first months in office be the ending of an entire industry owned by American companies. But if the idea was to keep these things owned by American companies, GM and Chrysler aren't going to be owned exclusively by American companies. They're going to be owned by the government and by Canadian investors and by Russian banks, for crying out loud. It is so ridiculous. Drives me out of my mind. News that just shouldn't be. This and honestly, the bigger issue is this idea that you have to have these, that they're so crucial, that they're so important. This kind of idea that institutions have some right to exist because they're large and powerful. Now, the implications for this, and we can talk about this in the religious in the religion section in a bit, but I'm going to try to take Tony down the ramp of talking about the liars, the slanderers, and the gossips. Those conservatives that go after other Christians so hard. But maybe we can talk about this too, this whole notion that somehow bigger is better and is sustainable and has to exist. Not true. Even though it's been most people's lived experience for the last 100 years, it has expired. You know, people used to say these big companies are important because then you'd have stability for the workforce. And now the rest of the workforce, the rest of us people, are propping it up. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Those of you who are watching on Ustream, you're going to be back for the next video when we start again with Shelley Pagitt at the 10 o'clock hour. Those of you who are listening on Blog Talk Radio or on the Ustream live feed, you can just hang in there. The news update brought to you by the Onion Radio Network.
Peter Gallagher once again.